Gosh, you are going to die.
All right. Wow. We filmed that in Danville, Virginia at Caesar's Palace. And we have been busy bees. That was one of a couple trips that we've taken. So we wanted to take a second to recap what's been going on, starting with what you just saw in Danville.
Yep.
So that was the lovely Ciara Poker playing at the poker room there.
Okay.
And today we're going to review one of your hands that you played during that session.
Were you with me?
I was with you. How'd you feel during that session? What was first time, new casino, new players?
I don't get nervous anymore, which is that was the first time I noticed it.
Yeah.
And that's that was a big deal for me.
To be more comfortable at the table.
Yes.
And that's something to take note of, right? You were more confident that, hey, I can hang in here. I'm one of the better players here.
But during the rest of the evening,
you didn't feel as comfortable or as confident?
No, when I'm card dead, I get bored. Yeah. And that's
a big leak in your game for sure.
And I start doing things that lose me money. I start getting loosey-goosey.
Well, it's good is that you realize that.
Yeah.
You're not sitting there like, oh, I got sucked out on ball. You're admitting, I shouldn't have been playing.
I get bored. When I'm card dead, like for an hour and a half, I'm like, I need to leave. Yep. I need to leave. Yep. So I think that's one of my major flaws.
Well, this hand we're going to talk about today may fall into that category of what you're talking about with you playing loosey-goosey and maybe getting in spots you shouldn't get in. So. Let's see what happens, and let's get into the mind of Ciara, something I have not been able to do for years. Here we go. All right, here we are in the seats of Caesar's Palace, Danville. As you can see, we are Ciara Poker. We're playing a 2-5 game. This hand, we wake up with Queen Jack offsuit in late position. Is this ringing any bells for you?
No.
Okay, great. So we're late position here. I don't remember the stack size. I just put everybody. I remember you had a significant amount of chips more than your eventual villain.
Okay.
So I put him as about 240 starting stack here.
Okay.
I've got you at 500, right? Just rough estimates.
I remember this.
You had more than him. All right. So we're in late position with Queen Jack. Let's see what happens here.
Why are you playing a winning hand of mine?
So early position raises 15. With a few callers there. So we've got one raise, 2 calls coming to you in late position. What are we thinking?
I did a re-raise, didn't I?
Well, what would you do if you're playing this hand? I'll tell you what you did after, but let's get your thoughts here. What are you going to do?
I don't want to know. Was this when I was bored?
I don't know. I was at the table when this happened, but I
like Queen Jack.
Okay.
I probably made it 45.
But what would you do now, sitting here not bored in a good poker mindset? Would you?
Yes, I would still do the same.
You were to raise?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I just made a call, didn't I?
I think with Queen Jack offsuit,
what did I do?
Because you're in late position, you can 4-bet it if you want. But most of the time, I'm going to say it's a fold. Okay. So I would say 70% just fold it. Don't want to get involved. 30% 4-bet.
Okay.
Calling is probably your worst option because you're just hoping to basically hit a straight.
Yeah.
At that point.
And I remember anytime somebody made it 15. Okay, I remember. every time somebody just raised to 15, you would get multiple callers. So I think I raised here.
Raising would be a smart play, picking up on that. Yeah. Everybody just wants to get flop, but you better raise it a lot more than 45. Yeah. That's not going to get anybody to fold anything, especially at the table you're describing. Everybody's loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
So you better make that probably 75 to 100. And look, there's already 45, 50, $2 in the pot already. So making it 75 to 100 is not unreasonable.
Yeah. What did I do? I had a lot of people folding.
You just called.
I just called.
You just called. And that brought in the small blind and the big blind folded.
Okay.
All right, so you took the call option, which I would say is probably the worst of the three options there. Because now you're really hoping to hit your hand.
Yeah.
Right? But let's just see what happens on the flop. Jack? And let's see. We had 8-3-6 on the flop.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much whiffed everything. No draws really, unless it's a weird straight draw. Yeah. Nothing really out there for our queen jack. All right. It's going to check to our guy that opened the hand. And he's going to lead out for a small sizing. Right. That's going to get a couple folds because it's such a dry board. Comes back to us.
I make a call. Because it's in my range.
Talk me through the reasoning here.
Because it's in my range.
So your plan here is to bluff.
Yeah.
Like you realize, hey, that hand is in my range. It's not in that guy's range.
Right.
So I think I'm going to be able to bluff this hand. I love the reasoning.
Yes.
Love it.
I remember.
Smart play. At least smart realization of the hand here. Of where you're at. You do just call. So you're following through on your plan. I'm okay. I'm actually okay with that call. I'm okay with the call. I'm also okay with the fold. Let's just get away from it. We can find better spots. We don't need to be bluffing this hand, especially when we have absolutely nothing, right? So, but you got a plan. At least you realize why you're doing it. I'm okay with it.
So I can narrow his range down,
So, King of Spades on the turn. I thought that was an interesting turn card. Because I obviously don't see what cards everybody has. So I'm watching. I saw the King of Spades come. I was like, okay, somebody's going to be happy about that card. Somebody's not going to be happy about that card. So let's see what happens. So our early position villain leads out again for a small sizing, though. It was only $40, but look, it leaves him with 160 behind. What's your thoughts now?
I raised here.
You think you're going to raise? Well, I mean, what's the reason? You just said on the last street on the flop that, hey, 8-3-6 hits my range.
Yeah.
Well, the king hits his range then. So why are we raising now? What's the rationale? Because if you
I'm going to bluff the spade draw here. The spades.
Oh, okay. Well, spades aren't there yet.
No, they're not.
So are we still raising? What are we doing?
I think I raised here. I remember doing that, I think. Stop looking at me like that. Why aren't you playing a winning hand of mine? Because I know I lost.
I want you to walk me through what you were thinking.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Stop. This is how we get better. We talk about hands like this.
I know we talk about it, but
this is how we get better.
I don't know what I don't remember what I did.
Well, what would you do now if you were faced with this bet?
I'm gonna continue my story that it hits my range, and then I'm still happy with my hand, and the king doesn't scare me.
Okay, so you're gonna call.
If I'm going to bluff, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna call.
Okay. So yeah, I make the call.
Okay, you do make the call. Even when I'm glad you realized though that the king hits his range now more than it does yours. I'll talk about the big thing I think you missed in this hand at the end here, but keep that in mind. All right. Okay. So I remember the board pairs on the river, and he bets small
once again.
on the river.
I
Because
raised
remember, this
here,
was a couple small bets. Because I picked up on that. I picked up he's betting small.
Yeah.
All right. So now, faced with the last $50 bet, he's only got about $100 left behind. What are we doing?
Oh, so I went all in here because he's only got, like, why didn't he just bet it all? Right?
Yeah.
You got to put the pressure on him.
Sure.
So he's not that comfortable with the king being out there.
I think you're probably a little bit right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably not 100% comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You've called him down on such a dry board.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably not comfortable, but given he's only got $100 left behind and he's put in over $100, the pot's almost $300.
That was, I remember this because I'm like, that's weird. Why didn't he just go all in right there?
Mm-hmm. But again, we've got queen high.
Yeah.
We've got nothing.
Yeah.
We need a fold to win this pot. Let's just say he has pocket twos.
Yeah.
He beat you.
Yeah. He does.
And if you rip it all in, it'll only $100 more for him to call. Is it worth it? Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do? What are your thoughts?
That's what I did.
You're ripping it?
I ripped.
All right, we're ripping it. You do rip it.
And he thought about it forever.
Yeah, you ripped it. He does think about it forever. But I think he took the totality, or he took the stack to pot ratio in mind. Like, I've only got $100 left. Now, if he had like $1,000 and you had like $1,000 and you rip the river here, probably works. Your move probably works at this point. But I think because right now the pot's $435, it's only going to cost him $100 more to call.
Let me preface this. Let me say this.
Yeah.
Because before he sat at my table, for some reason, my bluffs were working, and I was confident. My stories were confident. My stories were making sense. I was bluffing. I've never bluffed so much in my entire life, and they were working because the aggression. People were not aggressive at the table, at both tables that I played at. So then I got a little too confident. And I was like, oh,
great easy. Self-awareness. Great self-awareness.
Too easy. So I remember that. And then you sat at the table, like, what were you doing there? Why are you doing that? I'm like, you have no idea what's working for me right now. The aggression was working. Yeah, it's hard to let aces go. So
yeah, he had aces.
He was scared though.
But yeah, he was scared. And I will say that your line probably would work if there was more money involved. But I think that was your fatal flaw here. Is you did not look at his stack to see how much money he had left.
Do you think I raise any of his bets and then rip it on the river, he folds?
Well, I think if you were going to raise one of his bets, you could have done it on, I don't know. Aces probably never fold this way. Okay. Given his stack size, aces never folds here.
Okay.
But let's just take the line you're talking about. Let's say he had, I don't know, 10s, 9s, 7s. Let's say 7s. 7s. Let's say he had 7s here.
You don't think aces ever fold on this kind of action table when there was like 4 callers, 5 callers?
Not on an 8-3-6 offsuit board. The only hand you can have is a set, and good on you if you do. I'm probably calling with aces, because you could be ripping with pocket 9s, pocket 10s, pocket 5s. You know, trying to get me off ace king, and I'm probably just going to call you down with aces. So, no, I do not think aces fold too often here. But if you did want to run that line and he had 7s. It would work if you way over. Remember, he bet 25 on the flop. Rip it all in there. You're like, if you want to put him on this range of big cards, and you want to try to run the bluff that you're running
on the flop,
just rip it all in on the flop. But again, like cost to benefit ratio, yeah, that may work 6 or 7 times, and you may win that $25 6 or 7 times. But the one time they call you, you lose 300.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So pick and choose your spots because that's not always going to work. But every once in a while, you got to do it because the next time when you do have that set of 8s and you rip it all in, they're going to be like, I remember she did this with Queen Jack offsuit. So I'm going to call her with my pair of 6s here, you know, and you're going to get paid. So you got to do it from time to time. You got to rip it with Queen Jack offsuit and run into aces. But I'm glad to hear you talk your rationale through this hand because I think your rationale is solid, right? You put him on a range and you were going to try to bluff because the 8-3-6 hit your range. And it almost worked. I remember he thought about it forever before he finally just said, screw it.
Because he thought I had a set.
And he was like, you got something good, don't you? And he called.
Yeah. He thought I had a set.
Yeah. So if more money was involved, he might have folded aces there. But I think your biggest flaw in this hand was not realizing he only had a few chips left, right? So, and he'd already put so much in, so it's tough for him to fold. But I'm actually pretty happy. When I saw the hand, I was like, why go with this crazy with Queen Jack here?
I do some weird things, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
But they get me paid sometimes. So.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't. So, but that's it. That's it from Danville. Next, we went to Vegas shortly after this. And I guess we'll talk about that next time. We'll talk about our old Vegas trip. Can Ciara recover from this financial loss? Until next time.
The answer is yes.